Hey, Suns fans, how are we doing this evening? Little stressed out, little nervous, little what the fuck was that against the Houston Rockets tonight? I don't know about you, Matthew, but that game was comfortable, then it wasn't comfortable, then it got a little itchy, then it was okay, and then they started hitting threes and didn't miss, and then Booker went on a 10-0 run, and then all of a sudden it was like almost tied again. Like, what WTF?
Yeah.
What was that, man?
How many times are we almost going to lose? It's a typical Suns game, though, lately, except for the last game. We had that blowout win, but this is the way the Suns roll right now, man. I mean, for 3 quarters, the Suns had it. They did exactly what they needed to do against the Houston Rockets. Fourth quarter was a little creepy of a quarter, right? It was a little Uncle Tomish gives you a little back rub.
Yeah, your creepy Uncle Thomas just shows up. It's like, hey man, like happy Easter. You want to hide some eggs? Like, what the frick was that? We gave up 38 points in the fourth quarter, and honestly, I just feel like the Houston Rockets couldn't miss a 3. But ultimately, your Phoenix Suns win by a score of 133-130 over the Houston Rockets on a quick little 1-game road trip. And now they're going to head home for the game that everybody's excited for, and that's the Wednesday matchup against the Utah Jazz. But as per usual, we've got a lot to talk about here on the Suns Jam Session podcast. So thank you for joining us if you are joining us live. If you're listening on the Bright Side of the Sun podcast network, go ahead, subscribe, rate, review. If you're on Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give us one of those 5-star ratings, because you know what we're going to do? We're going to read your reviews right here on the podcast. We actually have one from Lucid Athlete California. He posted this on April Fool's Day, and he said, fellas, love the podcast. Keep up the great commentary. Love listening to the podcast after every win and loss. It feels like I'm having a conversation about the Suns with my, and then it just says more, but it's with my friends. And with my creepy Uncle Thomas, who likes to give back rubs. But again, thank you to Lucid Athlete California for giving us that 5-star review. If you do the same thing, we're going to go ahead and put you on the podcast too, just to give you a shout out, because we appreciate it. We really do. It's a great way to let other Suns fans know where to get the best quality Suns content on the interwebs. If you're watching along live with us on YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe as well. Hit the little bell notification. That'll let you know when we go live, which is after every Suns game. And last but not least, you can follow the show at Suns Jam on Instagram, Twitter, and the Phoenix Fans app. You can follow me on all those platforms at Darth Voida, and you can follow Matthew Lissy.
Matthew Lissy.
Fantastic. All right. We got plenty to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about this Suns-Rockets game. Obviously, we're going to preview the Jazz game that is coming up on Wednesday. And we're going to do a little bit of a mailbag session, too, where we tweeted out yesterday, hey, if you want to talk about the Suns or you want us answer a couple questions on the podcast, we'll be happy to field those questions. So, Matthew, you ready for this one?
Yeah, I'm ready. What do you got to drink?
I have an 805 Cerveza. Ooh. It's not an 805 Blonde Ale. It's an 805 Cerveza. So I've never had this before. So shout out to one of my vendors who dropped this by today to let me try. And I'm going to try it right here on the pod.
I hope it treats you right.
What are you drinking? Water. Yeah. Ooh, nice. Okay, smart water. Makes it smarter. I dig it. Yeah, well, drink them if you got them, Suns fans. We need it after this game. I got it open. Cheers. Your Phoenix Suns now hold a record of 35-14. For the second time this season, they have won 6 consecutive games, and this is the first time since the 2007 and 2008 Phoenix Suns that has happened, Matthew. It's been quite some time.
A little bit of time, dude. This game today, absolutely amazing. Did you actually watch the whole thing, or did you get home in time from work?
I recorded it, so I was catching up to the point where I didn't realize that, like, in the last 5 minutes of the game, I was like, it was actually down to like the last 2 minutes. I'm looking at my phone on ESPN. I'm like, they're like 30 seconds ahead of me. How's that? I forgot to fast forward through it.
Yeah,
because I was catching up the whole time. What about you?
I actually got home at halftime, so I was listening to the whole thing in the car.
Oh, nice. John Bloom,
yeah, but it was actually really fun to listen to. I mean, the first quarter was pretty exciting. I think it was the first quarter, I heard like when Ayton came back into the second quarter, he had like 2 points, 1 rebound. I'm like, oh god. And then the second quarter happened with Deandre Ayton, and I missed most of that. But the third quarter, I think he had his best game ever this year. Especially in the third quarter.
Yeah, he was really
Sorry.
dominant.
A fly just flew in my mouth. So
totally changed that up there. I just got to ask, before we get into Deandre Ayton, because he's definitely going to be a point of emphasis on this game. Do you feel bad for Houston? Like, what's happened in this organization? 2 years ago, they're in the Western Conference Finals, and now they're just more discombobulated than Matthew after 3 shots of Sailor Jerry's while roaming downtown Chandler. Like, at what point do you feel bad for this organization?
Not Mill Avenue? Okay, that was back in the heyday.
No, you're a downtown Chandler kind of guy now.
My youngin' days back on Mill Avenue. No, you know what? I'll just say, I think that what James Harden did had to be done, but before that, the years he played a lot of good, solid years with Houston, and it got old. I didn't want to watch Houston play again in the playoffs with James Harden. I'm sick of seeing the colors, the floor, just all of it. That's the way I am. If it's too much of that team, just kind of like how OKC was with Russell Westbrook, that was over with soon. 2 years ago. And it's the same thing with James Harden. James Harden leaves. I'm like, thank God, because I want to see him in a different uniform. I want to see something else happen, switch it up a little bit. So I am very happy for what happened there. But honestly, for this franchise, it's been a while since they had to turn things around, but they got a good coach. They got some good young players on the team. We'll see what they do in this offseason. So I'm not feeling too bad for them. It's one bad year, so chill out.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting how 2-3 years ago they're in the Western Conference Finals, and now they're just like boom shakalaka. It's a team that don't get me wrong. Like, I can't really talk too much shit because they scored 130 points on the Suns tonight, behind some phenomenal 3-point shooting on their part. But it's just been interesting to see how they've completely had to change their culture because stars just didn't want to play there anymore. And it just reminds you to be appreciative of the Phoenix Suns and the culture that we're developing, because we're on the upswing. We're a team that's, hot and fresh and sexy, and a team that free agents are going to start to gravitate to in these upcoming off seasons because we're developing this culture. And as the Phoenix rises from the ashes, it's kind of nice to see Houston fall to pieces, because I will never forget or forgive Mario Elie for the 1994 and 1995 NBA playoffs, where he almost single-handedly at the end of those games, big games, hit huge shots that ultimately set the Phoenix Suns home. So I will never forget the Houston Rockets for that. Maybe I'm petty, maybe I'm old and petty, but I will never let those moments go.
Yeah, maybe you're Uncle Tom petty. I don't know.
Stupid, man. So stupid. It was a nice try. But I think, as we look at this game, you can't really talk about this game unless you start with
Ayton Watch 2021.
Deandre Ayton wanted the ball in this game, Matthew. He was demanding the ball. He was just doing anything that he realized that he had the mismatches to make what he wanted to happen, to be aggressive. And he wanted it. How excited were you to hear on the radio and then see when you got home his aggression? And obviously it's the thing that everybody, the Suns fans, we want it all the time. And I get that. And it's like, it was nice to see that come to fruition.
It was. And honestly, for me, I feel like DeAndre Ayton's a mismatch against anybody in this league. Supposedly right now, it's not really a center league, right? So DeAndre Ayton should be taking over every game. But when I heard it on the radio, I was very excited. I was almost like, you ever watch like old baseball games from like the 40s and like everyone's kind of like sitting up and clapping? Like they don't know whether or not they're
all
sitting
the time,
up,
man. All the time.
Standing up or sitting down. That's the way I was in my car, dude. I was like up and down in my car, bouncing up and down. I had the hydraulics going. I couldn't wait to get home to see if this was for real, if it was going to continue. And that was the surprising part for me, is it did continue. And it was in the third quarter. Second quarter, he helped out so much. Like I said, in the first quarter, I was kind of 2 points, 1 rebound. Come on. And then he made the first time this year where DeAndre Ayton like mind freaked somebody. Excuse my language. Mind freaked somebody.
Settle down.
Yeah, and Christian Wood looked like a different man out there. He looked like he was rethinking a lot of his life because of DeAndre Ayton. You want to see that every night with this guy, of course. But for this to happen, it's like, you need that one piece for the Suns. You need him and Mikal Bridges to step up, and both of them did tonight. Ayton is that other piece. You had Booker take over in the first. You had Chris Paul take over in the second with a little bit of DeAndre Ayton, and then DeAndre Ayton had his third quarter. And what's nice is he's that guy that's in between. So when Book's going at it, he's scoring, you still have Deandre Ayton. When you have Chris Paul, you still have Deandre Ayton. Like, he is that guy that is the great compliment to both those players. So he did that tonight. In the fourth quarter, it was kind of weird. He came back in, and even EJ said it. It's like he can't just sub back in. He needs to want the ball again. But it was a Booker fourth quarter. So I don't even know if he touched the ball. I think maybe
he didn't
just
score in the
time.
fourth.
He didn't score in the fourth, but I don't even know if he touched the ball. But
Well,
great game tonight, man. I loved it.
Yeah, it was fun to watch, fun to see the aggression, fun to see him demanding the rock, and had a stat line of 27 points, 11 rebounds, 1 assist, 2 blocks, 7 for 8 from the free throw line, and 10 of 14 from the field. And I really like that 7 for 8 from the free throw line, because that was the true barometer of DeAndre Ayton being aggressive, is how often he can get to the free throw line because of it. There's only 2 times in his career where he shot over 10 free throw attempts or more. And I was hoping that this was going to be another game where that was occurring. And it was all primed and ready for it to happen. But he played pretty much that entire third quarter. Yeah. He wanted to come out. Monty didn't want to take him out. Then Monty's like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to bring you out. And you were just kind of counting down the minutes in which he was going to come back, because you wanted to see him get to that just 30 points. I mean, he hasn't scored 30 points this season so far. He's somebody who he scored 27 once against the Rockets the last time we played him. Yeah. And you look at his career high. His career high came in his rookie season, 33 total points. He scored that against the Denver Nuggets in a loss a long time ago, and we were actually at that game. That's when he had that like 20-point quarter or something. Do you remember that?
Yeah, no, it was insane. Yeah, we were at the Blue Moon Lounge getting some beers, and he was still scoring.
Yeah, and he was still, we're like, dude, he's still going. And he did it against Torrey Craig and that Denver Nuggets team. So seeing him just play with that amount of aggression and that willingness to just go, give me the ball. And you're dead right. You know, this is the DeAndre Ayton. Come playoff time, we're definitely going to need you. You have 2 guards who have the ability to score almost at will. You need to have that complementary interior player who's efficient, who wants to be efficient, who wants the ball, because that opens up the entire offense completely. Now, granted, it's one of those, it's a team that for some reason DeAndre Ayton just kind of, I don't know, likes playing against. You look at his career splits against the Houston Rockets, and I'm trying to pull them up. Pulling it down here on Basketball Reference. His career splits against the Houston Rockets, he averages 17.5 points and 12 rebounds. But you throw these 2 games in this season, he's averaged 27 points, and it's just this is the key. This is the answer. This is what will take the Suns to the promised land. Nights like tonight from DeAndre Ayton come playoff time.
Yeah, and what I love and what I almost mentioned last Ayton Watch was the reason we are so well. I mean, the reason why Mikal Bridges is so well liked is because he will play the same way every night, no matter who he plays against. Okay, I know the center position might be tougher, even though I said it's not a center league. I was joking. There are some guys down there that DA just can't nudge around like he did tonight with Christian Wood, but just the effort there against these teams that you know you'll probably get the win, even though it's a struggle sometimes for the Suns. The effort is what we want to see night in and night out. And it's not like a full 48, but it's just, you know, put your best effort forward really for DA. And that's the one thing that we really need going into the postseason. And it's coming quickly. That's why these games matter. Every game matters, no matter who we are playing. And I know the next 2 games are going to be really great matches for the Suns, but they needed to get this W, dude, because Utah lost tonight too.
Exactly. We gain a game on Utah tonight. And yes, every game does matter. This is the home stretch. This is game number 49. Tomorrow on Bright Side of the Sun, I will have my piece coming out, because it's one thing that I've been doing for Bright Side of the Sun is reviewing every game, 7 games at a time, and just seeing, you know, if you hit these little mile markers along the way, if you're just focusing on the next 7, what can we do in the next 7 to grow? What can we do in the next 7 record-wise? If you continue to win those 7-game periods, if you go 4-3 every game of the season, you're going to end up in the playoffs. This is another opportunity for the Suns to go through a pretty shitty part of the schedule. Their only loss in this last 7 games was to the Orlando Magic, a game we should have probably won. And the team went 6-1 in the last period. And DeAndre Ayton is starting to grow more. And now we enter essentially period 8. There's going to be 3 more periods of 7 games, with the final one being, I believe, 10 games, because it's just the way that math works, you know. But
Yeah.
but I mean, a fantastic game from our buddy DeAndre Ayton. Thanks for thanks for just being the physical man dude that we all know you can be. Let's definitely make sure that occurs more moving forward. It was a nice start from deep for the Phoenix Suns. You look at how they played in the first half, and they essentially, it felt like the Suns almost couldn't miss in the first half from deep. They were 12 for 23, while the Rockets were 6 for 17. Did you think the Suns were taking a little too many threes earlier, or who gives a shit?
It's funny you say it like that, because when they're going in, who gives a F? Who really cares? I mean, they're going in, they look confident, especially Mikal Bridges started out 2 for 2, right, from 3. So he
looked good too.
He looked really good. Those shots, his form and everything seems like it's getting better. And it's weird because all season long I've been really talking about Mikal. I love him getting to the rim, and I know he's shooting great from downtown. But now, like, I am just getting to the point where I love his form. I love everything about it. Of course, going into this year, he changed it. It looks a lot more natural, and that's the way he continues to improve it. I think that he honestly, him and the rest of the Suns today, even Chris Paul was getting it going early, and he continued his streak from last game where he couldn't miss a shot. So it's nice when they're going down, of course, but then it's one thing if we're down to the Houston Rockets in the first quarter, it's like, why are we shooting so many threes? But they were good looks. I mean, you can't pass them up in today's NBA. So either they're going to go in or they're not going to go in. Just like the Mavericks had to beat the Utah Jazz tonight, but making pretty much all their threes. They made 23 of them. So if they're going in, keep shooting them, of course. So I'm not going to be upset about that.
Well, and I mean, the Suns ended with 18 total made threes tonight, and that's, you look at how they've performed thus far this season, and you look at their total number of threes made in a game, and the total number of times that they've had more than 18 or more is 4 games. They've had a game where they made 24, 22, 21, 19. So they made 18 threes, and they only won by 3 because the other team was just absolutely on fire come the second half. I mean, the Houston Rockets, like I said, 6 for 17 in the first half. The second half, they end up shooting a total of, 11 for 16 from deep in the second half. That is a shooting percentage of, math real quick, 68.7, 68.9%. Yeah, that's pretty close. 68% from 3 in the second half. I mean, that's what it took the Houston Rockets to get back in this game, because the Suns are just one of those teams who really know. I mean, they're a quality team, and it's a pleasure to watch this every night, to see how they continue to just be a professional team that never gets too high, never gets too low, that takes the Ricky Rubio mantra, the Papa Ricky mantra, and enacts it into this team and into each game. Because when teams are putting runs on you, I mean, what did they have in that second half? I wrote it down. I'm looking at my notes right here. My
Booker run or the Houston Rockets run? I think it was 19 to 2 or 19 to 3. Okay.
19-3 run in that second half. And again, that's why this game's close. And, the best thing is I look at the Jamsters in the chat, and shout out to all the Jamsters in the chat down there. Really appreciate you joining us along live for this post-game show. But no one's going crazy and being like, WTF, like, what happened to the Suns? We've seen this. We've seen this before. And I don't know if you, Gerald Bourguet, who does the Valley of the Suns, and he's got their podcast, it's something he was talking about recently on one of his podcasts. He's like, one of the nice byproducts of the Suns like blowing these leads is it forces them to have to close out games. We're not seeing those sticks minutes in the last 6 minutes like we did last game, because we have to close out the game. So even though it's against inferior competition, they still have valuable possessions and have to run competitive sets late in the game in order to win the game. And it's one of those little byproducts that is beneficial for this team.
Yeah, it is. And that podcaster, Gerald Bourguet's podcast, is very, very good. Very easy to listen. Just chill, listen. I love it.
Yeah, good people.
Yeah, so I'll never be the guy, of course, with runs. Be like, oh, how did they give up those runs? Because that's not me. It's just the NBA. It's going to happen. So I always look at the clock. I'm like, is it below 4 minutes or 3 minutes yet when we're up by 20? Because it really doesn't matter, because every team the Suns are playing, when we're up by 20, by 15, they're going to just launch it from 3. And that's what's been happening, is these teams that they're playing, except for the last game, of course, against OKC, they're going in these threes. So there's really nothing more the Suns. I don't think it's their defense. If anything, their offense. Sometimes they'll throw the ball away, make stupid passes. But besides that, their defense has been playing pretty solid. And in the paint is where you have to sometimes watch it. In the paint,
Yes.
sometimes DA might be lackadaisical, give up an easy dunk, give up an easy lay-in or something like that, where he's just not typically that way. But they're covered, basically they're covered around the perimeter. It's solid, I think. They can't really do anything else. I mean, the ball's just going in for the other teams on difficult shots to end the buzzer or to end this 24-second shot clock.
Mhm.
Just stupid threes are going in. So, yeah, and it's great practice for the Suns. It is, even though you're playing an inferior team, it is good practice because you get to see more. Our one question was, who's going to be taking these shots? Pass it to DA, pass it to Mikal. Now you're seeing Chris Paul and Booker now make the shots they need to win the game. So maybe that's something we have to deal with. It's just going to be those two guys taking the shots in the playoffs and towards the end of the season, even though we were worrying about, hey, get Mikal and Ayton more involved, which wasn't the deal tonight.
No, but it's definitely plausible that that's how you're going to attack, is you're going to utilize your guards in crunch time situations come playoff time, and you're just going to let them kind of try to create. And it's not pretty basketball. And I think that's what frustrates us at times is we're used to a free flowing, pass the ball, nice, get plenty of assists and open up your fellow shooters via those assists kind of basketball game. I mean, again, you look at tonight, the Suns had 29 assists on 49 or 44 made shots. So definitely, a team that likes to move the ball. But then when you hit those crunch time minutes, yes, it's slow it down. It's Chris Paul, it's Devin Booker. And that's how ultimately you're going to live and die by that. And you know what? At the end of the day, that's how you have to live and die. Those are your two max players. Knowing that Deandre Ayton, though, does have a micro affinity in his personality to demand the ball at times could be something that becomes unlocked here in these last 23 games that the Phoenix Suns have, is seeing something like tonight. I'm really hoping and seeing that we build on this in these upcoming games, because that's what this all is about, man. The Suns have been an organization who've been looking up at the playoffs and be like, man, that'd be fun to play in that. And given the way that they're playing this year, it's like, we know we're a lock. We know we're in there. It's like, now let's start fine tuning this machine, really taking a look at the pieces and parts and see if they're applicable come playoff time, if they're going to provide us with the mismatches that we want and the points that we're going to need come crunch time. And Devin Booker tonight was just absolutely fantastic in the fourth quarter. He was the guy who came in and pretty much just calmed the storm. He personally had a 12-2 run against the Houston Rockets late in the fourth.
Yes.
The Suns were down 107-105, and it was like Devin Booker time, man.
Yeah, it was 11-2 run, right? Sorry, I had to correct you on that.
11-2. No, you are correct. He missed that second free throw.
Yeah, because I was keeping track of it. Just like I was keeping track of the third quarter where Deandre Ayton was unstoppable. And then all of a sudden, hey, don't pass Deandre Ayton the ball for 3 possessions. And then he gets a tip in that, he couldn't make it, but it gets fouled. So it's just things like that I look out for, because I'm like, how often are they going to get DA involved towards the end of the game when he's feeling it and he wants the ball? It was basically, hey, let's just ignore him for a little bit, and in the fourth quarter, just don't even give him the ball. So luckily, Booker was making his shots, and we love it. I mean, he's going to be that guy for us. We talk about it every freaking podcast. But of course, they did great tonight. Not even having the bench, Cameron Johnson, the hell of a game. It wasn't like even like his points, 12 points. He just was really in there hustling, throwing his body around, getting the crap kicked out of him. Like, he was filling Dario Saric's role really well tonight, just getting uppercutted every time he was down in the paint. So that was great to see. I can care less if he made his threes or not tonight. I mean, it's of course nice. I mean, he went 3 for 7, but just his physicality down low with a smaller team, you like to see that with Cameron Johnson, because that's his next step, right? Working in the paint, doing what he can do down there with his length. So I love seeing that tonight. Like, no one else really stepped up off the bench though. Which is fine. It's not going to happen every night, so I'm not worried about it.
No, me neither. And again, seeing some of the choices that Cam Johnson was making is what made me excited about his play, because I wrote about him in my notes as well. And, right now is my first time looking at the box score relative to the bench. And yeah, you're right. I mean, 1 point from Saric, 2 points from Craig, 2 points from Campaign, 3 points from Javon Carter. It was 12 points from Cameron Johnson and the way that the starters play, a total of 6 players in double figures. But I liked a lot of his choices tonight, where he would get the ball and he would go to shoot it and he would just let the guy fly by and he'd go in and he'd take a mid-range shot. And he didn't always make them, but he did have one really nice make. And I like to see that. And I know how inefficient and how you shouldn't take the mid-range shot and all that. My 2 points is 2 points, man. Devin Booker makes a living off of it. And it's nice to see Cam Johnson do that. And again, to your point, be physical, get down in there, cut, get into the paint, try to create issues and problems. And he paid for it tonight. You're right.
Yeah, even if he can't read the ball very well right now, just throw your arms up and see what happens. That's exactly what he did tonight.
Yeah, I know. He's
Put yourself out there.
create a little bit of havoc out there. And, you got to respect that about Cam Johnson. And again, somebody who's coming back from COVID, I do think that his 3-point shot at times looks so good and then sometimes just looks so bad. And that's just going to be the consistency a second-year player provides. So we'll just kind of have to deal with that as it goes.
Yep.
The Saric smoke break.
Not much to talk about on our buddy Dario Saric tonight. Again, the 1 point on 0 for 6 shooting, 0 for 3 from deep, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, only 1 foul. Man, he was getting fucking murdered down there. What's crazy about the Rockets, man, is they're a team that's not that big. That's why Deandre Ayton was like eating and feasting in this game. And Dario Saric was just getting like pummeled, bro.
Yeah, he was pretty much out athleticized tonight, right?
Yes.
He just could not get it. Like it was like he was trying to shoot under a tree or something, dude. He was having the hardest time. I don't mean to laugh. It's funny because it's Sarge. He plays so hard. He really does. And some nights he just can't get it going. I know he went through that 4-game stretch earlier this year, or not earlier, but just like last week, where he averaged like 4 points a game, something like that. So it was a bad game. He tried too hard on certain times in the game where he was just trying to go. Now when you watch Saric. Sorry, I cut myself off like Charles Barkley a lot, where I just cut my in mid conversation. I cut my own self off to change the subject. But where Saric is gonna he's gonna go for the layups. Like, no, don't do that, and he gets blocked every time. So I think when he got back into his great Saric days just recently was when he really took his time, but had the right angles on guys, and it's very difficult for him to do. I just think that the guys around him covering him just were longer than him, and it was very difficult for the guy.
No, and as Mook Allen says, he says they're athletic though. I mean, that's what killed him tonight is the fact that he was going against a team that's just they're all athletes. Not a lot of size, but will out hustle you. And like you said, Dario Saric makes his living on angles and throwing that big booty around, and that's what the Boogie Trent says in the chat. He says Dario was booty tonight. Because he can't beat these guys to the angles because they're just too athletic. And, it's just, it was an unfortunate night for Dario. God, there's somebody. Oh, Monty, I love this. Dario must have smoked Camels before the game. Just winded and tired, and as Arizona Kush, everyone has a bad game. Yes, we know that. We love Dario Saric. That's why he has his own segment on the Suns Jam Session podcast. It was just a rough night for the guy tonight, but he will come back and he will bounce back and he will be vital to a victory versus the Utah Jazz come Wednesday night. Is there anybody on the Houston Rockets who you were surprised by that you're like, hey, who's this guy?
Yeah, Kevin Porter Jr., of course. I mean,
okay, that's funny because that's exactly what I wanted to talk about. Bring it on him.
I feel like maybe I missed most of his good game, but he was just some guy that was surprising. I go along with Avery Bradley. I didn't even know he was on the team, and that's
just really got traded for Oladipo.
Yeah, so I had no idea. So it was surprising to see those two guys play. But honestly, Kelly Olynyk was the biggest surprise for me. But you can go back to Kevin Porter Jr. if you'd like. But Kelly Olynyk, I think we talked about him kind of adding him as a guy that's a buyout guy or something. He really showed a lot of talents on defense, blocking. How many blocks did he have? Oh, he didn't even have how many blocks did he have? I was listening to the game. I swore he had 3 blocks. Unless those aren't really blocks.
No, he had 4 personal fouls and 5 turnovers, though.
Those are the blocks, and the 5 turnovers. Yeah, I felt like he had 3 blocks when I was listening to it. It must have been another Olynyk. But go ahead, man, with Kevin Porter Jr.
Well, just the thing I have on Kevin Porter Jr. was, a couple things. And let's see, I'm clicking the wrong button. Who just said it? Felix says in the chat, he's like, his 2 dreads were very surprising. He's got this nice afro. I love a good afro. And he had these 2 dreads right in front of his eye. And I just don't understand that look. And it's got but after you shoot the ball, don't they whip you in the face sometimes? Every now and then you're like, shit, I took a dread in the eye.
Maybe he likes that.
But my issue with him, or what surprised me, maybe he likes that. What surprised me about him was kind of his stat line tonight. You look at him, and again, whenever you play anybody that's a team like this, and we talked about this with the OKC game, somebody's going to have a good night because NBA teams are going to score points. This is the way it comes out. He had 20 points on 5 of 10 shooting, and what's surprising is, he was 1 for 3 from deep and 9 for 10 from the free throw line. And you look at his splits this year, he is a 23% 3-point shooter and he is a 59% free throw shooter. He just had one of those good nights for himself,
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I mean, maybe I shouldn't. Maybe
Do
I
it.
should.
No,
I don't
it has
know.
to be.
Okay, he gets it.
The Jack Taylor Award for the guy who comes out of nowhere and scores a shit ton of points on you.
I mean, he's
It's a
definitely
free
the
throw
Jack.
game.
Yeah, it was his free throw game. This guy shoots 59%. He goes 9 for 10 from the field and has a decent, a decently efficient night. I was just really surprised by him. Christian Wood, we know his name. We knew he was going to have a hard time against DA because he typically does. He didn't. The only thing that he could do, like you said, like DA was crushing his soul. So what did he do? He went to the perimeter and he made like 3 3-pointers and got them back in the game. That was the only way he could be effective. But shout out to Kevin Porter Jr. Had no idea who you were coming to this game, and you scored a shit ton of points on us.
Yeah, it happens, man. It's crazy. It's like we always talk about these games, be like, Suns need to play a full 48 minutes really to take care of these teams. But what do you think the other team's trying to do too? They're trying to focus. They're trying to get a win streak going, trying to get a win after losing 4 in a row. So I think these teams that are coming are really trying to focus on 48 minutes too. And like you said, just try to hit those threes, and that's exactly what they did. But these teams are also trying to play the Suns very, very hard.
Well, and again, that's just what happens when you're the second team in the West. Like, you're going to get everybody's best punch. Nobody's going to let you take a night off, because for them and their fan base, it could be a signature win. They're like, listen, we've lost 4 in a row, but we just beat the Phoenix Suns. Things are being turned around. Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, these new guys to the team. Oladipo's gone. This could be the start of something special. We're not there yet, but look what we did to the Suns. So you're going to get that every night from against the opposition. Every night you're going to have these teams gunning for the Suns. And, again, kudos to the Suns for surviving the onslaught that the Rockets brought in that second half.
Yeah, I mean, they had to do what they got to do. You saw Booker's face, too. Didn't move a muscle on his face, did he, the whole game?
Well, what about his body language? I mean, you're the body language guy, right? You're the body language guru.
Yeah, I guess Dave King is that guy. I had honestly, I didn't even know he was into that stuff, but I like the body language, yeah.
Well,
ever since Bill Simmons.
Did you see Devin Booker's body language after he was called for a flagrant foul? Did you see that?
Oh my God. So that happened right before halftime, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just walking in and I saw the guy shooting 2 free throws. So you'll have to walk me through that because I didn't have time to rewind because at halftime
he was as cold as ice. They called it and he was just like, okay. Like, I was really expecting.
Was it a hard foul? I didn't get to see a replay.
No, essentially what he did is the guy was coming, he was going to go block out. He looked at him and he went to put his elbow in his chest. And as the guy ran into him, it kind of slid up and hit him in the jaw. So, I mean, it definitely warrants the flagrant foul, but it was Devin Booker's demeanor. And I just released that piece on Brightside yesterday pertaining to Devin Booker and being a technical foul machine, because I've been waiting for him to get his 10th technical foul. And he just hasn't done it yet. Mm-hmm. So I was like, fuck it. I have this piece lined up, ready to go. We needed something for some Sunday content. So I'm like, you know what? I'll just go ahead and I'll release this one. And somebody said it on Twitter, like, it looks like Voida got tired of waiting for this one. So shout out to whoever that was.
Yeah. And I thought that's what it was when I came back in. I thought it was a technical shot. And they showed Book just like he was like still faced, but he looked a little upset, just annoyed. I'm like, oh, is that his 10th technical? But it wasn't.
No, he got a flagrant foul and he's just like, okay, whatever, man. And it was nice to see that because, again, one of the things I kind of comment on in my piece on Brightside is like, listen, he really needs to, that emotional maturity is that next big step for him. I mean, for Devin Booker along his career, he's had to go through all these different steps in an effort to become an all-star and hopefully a superstar. And the difference between an all-star and a star and like a superstar is a superstar wins playoff games. So that's kind of the next big thing for him. But along the way, to become an all-star, you have to have the ability to be efficient scorer. You have to have the ability to lead your team. And he's a guy who, I'm not going to go down the whole rabbit hole of Devin Booker being screwed over by the league for, his relative to being an all-star, but he is now a 2-time all-star. But one of those next things that he needs to do is really have the ability to control those emotions in those situations, because he's cost his teams points and games in the past because of it. And just seeing that again tonight, little micro situation of him managing his emotions when he could have been like, are you serious? But
yeah, and he didn't. And you brought up the body language, and I didn't miss it totally, because when he walks back to the bench now, he's just like he's totally a different guy. Like, he's basically right now, so he's part of the elite status with the Jenners and the Kardashians. So do you think
He is
he's
a
like
lizard
clone?
person now.
Yeah, he's like a clone or something right now because he does look a little bit more stiffened up. Just I don't care what's going on with my players on the court. What's going on with them if they're messing up? Like he's really focused on his own game. Of course, he still shares the ball, but he has this little edge to him, like where he's hiding it to himself. It's like he's thinking about it the whole time, but he's not letting it be seen. So the last maybe few games, but I noticed it a lot tonight in the last half of the game where he has that. So maybe that is the next step he's taken to the stardom level to where in the playoffs he'll be the star that we need.
He's as cold as ice,
Clone
man.
book. Yeah.
Clone book, like the Boogie Trend says in the chat. Maybe when he went on like that island with the Kardashians, they replaced all of his blood.
What else are they gonna do? They get so bored. What are they gonna watch a TV show?
They have and do everything. Like they're not gonna do anything that we would do. They're like, you know what I'm gonna do? A nice little blood transfusion. They're like, Booker's like, okay, and now he's just like,
I would do it too. I would do it too. I would give in to anything they want me to do.
Why not? They're the Kardashians.
Jam Star of the Game.
All right, this is a reminder to everybody who's watching along live in the chat to go ahead, subscribe, rate, and review. If you're interested in submitting a mailbag question to the Suns Jam Session, simply email us, sunsjamsession@gmail.com. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button, and make sure you hit that little bell to remind you when we go live, which is after every game. All right, and if you're watching along live in the chat, let us know who your Jam Star of the Game is in this one against the Houston Rockets. Matthew,
yes,
I'll let you go first this time. I went first last podcast.
All right. Well, we just got done talking about this guy, Devin Booker. He has to be. And I was thinking when Ayton came back in the fourth, I'm like, okay, he has to help us. We're struggling. And then all of a sudden, Booker goes on that 11-2 run. So then DA goes in the back of my mind, and I'm just like, yeah, never mind. I guess he'll be okay till next game. You know, I wanted him to get 30 points.
Oh man, me too. So bad.
I really did, and that's what you see a lot this year, right? Especially with Booker when he starts out hot. He's Mr. First Quarter, of course, 11 tonight in the first quarter, but he's always that guy in the first quarter. And then you're just like, you're so used to it now. But before it was like, oh, Book's going for 50 tonight. You kind of forget about it now. But DA, you kind of wanted to see 30 points. 27 is fine. He's as happy as we are. Of course, he doesn't give two licks of whether he gets 30 points as long as they got the win. But I wanted to see more of DA in the fourth, but Booker got it going. So why not just keep riding him? He missed 2 easy shots too in that span. That he was really frustrated with himself. Yes. And it's like those are gimme shots for him. But then he was just outstanding. He hit some really big threes tonight too.
Yeah, I mean, what was his? He went 6 for 8 from deep, I think.
Yep,
I mean,
6 for 8, yeah,
6 for 8. Like, way to go, D-Book. 8 for 9 from the free throw line. 36 points on 20 shots total. 11 of 20 overall. He had 6 rebounds, 6 assists. I am going to go through the rest of the starting lineup just to give everybody who's listening on the pod, or if you're watching as well, kind of an update on how everybody did tonight. Jay Crowder had 11 points. Mikal Bridges had 20 points, and he looked good tonight, man. Ayton, as we mentioned, had 27, and CP3 had 19 points and 11 assists. He now has, his 500th game with 10 or more assists, the 5th player ever to do that. So, I mean, CP3 is coming to Phoenix at the back end of his career and breaking all these records. He's over 10,000 assists, and now he has 500 games with 10 or more assists. So kudos to him. Looking at what some of the Jamsters are saying, Blackout Suns says the big fella. Mega Khalid 121 says CP3, Book, and DA. Det Nibble says DA. Boogie Trent says the big 3 as well. Mario Lopez, Jamstar, 3rd quarter DA and 4th quarter Book. That's a really good way to put it. Let's see. I'm taking way too long. I'm just gonna go with you. I got to give it to D-Book. You know, I really wanted, I'm wearing my NBA Jam shirt that's got Booker and Ayton on it. I mean, it was both these guys tonight. They did it. A total of 56 points between them both. Is that math for me?
More than that. 66, right?
66 points between both of them. I mean, fantastic effort for them both. But I mean, Devin Booker, the way that when the Suns went down by 2 or 3 points, it was 107-104. I misquoted myself earlier. And I mean, it was just boom. It was Booker time. And I was just like, hell yeah, man. I mean, that's what I want to see in this game. I want to see Devin Booker or Deandre Ayton take over. And, DA's just like, yo, Booker, you do what you do, man. And it's so nice to see that. So again, kudos to Devin Booker on getting our Jam Star of the Game.
Yeah, just really quick too. I mean, if Ayton always talked about, he was like, oh, we're just Shaq and Kobe. But can you imagine if Ayton was like Shaq now and he's like wanted his time, he wants the ball at the end and then they fight. So that probably won't happen for a couple of years. But right now it's just like, yeah, you're right. Give it to Book. So
yeah, let Book close out the games. And
yes.
again, a game like tonight is another stepping stone towards that more aggressive DA that everybody wants.
Yes.
Guess what?
All right, guess what we talked about in this game? Who was going to win? We said, well, both of us said the Suns, and we were both right, and that moves us up to 21-12 for myself and 24-9 for you, Matthew. And now we have the Jazz preview. The Suns, it's actually incorrect on the screen. I'm going to change that real quick because it said at Jazz. It is a home game against the Jazz.
Who did that? That was
God, Matthew, the one thing I asked and you left in that. We are playing the Jazz on Wednesday. A huge game, obviously, considering the fact that they lost tonight to the Dallas Mavericks. So it's not you never want to root for the Dallas Mavericks, but tonight was one of those nights you're like, hey, man, if you could do us a favor, like we'd really appreciate that. They're now 38-12. We are 35-14. We are 2.5 games behind them. So if we beat them, we are 1.5 games behind them. Real quick, just so because I know everybody is eager to know how Donovan Mitchell did in tonight's game. 16 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, 6 for 23 field goals. That's 26.1%, and 0 for 8 from 3. So that's how Donovan Mitchell. I am a known Donovan Mitchell hater. So what are you looking for in this game, man? This is going to be a good one.
Yeah. I feel like when we talk about the big matchups down low, the continuation, I feel like when I say this about Ayton just continuing his good play, it always comes against, a great defender down low. It can be like a Enes Kanter, who knows? Kanter always, I don't know, for some reason gives Ayton fits.
I know he does.
Yeah, it sucks. But I'm really excited to watch that matchup. I really am. And honestly, to tell you the truth, the Jazz, they're the hottest team right now in the NBA. They won't stop winning, except for tonight where they lost to the Dallas Mavericks, and the Mavericks had to score 23 threes, shoot them and make them, 23 of them to beat this team, but they held them to 101 points. I would have rather seen the Jazz win tonight and then play the Suns tomorrow in 2 nights, because I want them to be on that streak and then we beat them. I want to kill the streak. But I guess it doesn't really make a difference. But the matchups I want to watch is just Ayton, what he does against Gobert. It's really true. I think when you have Booker and Mitchell, I like Mitchell. I think he's a great player. I know there's a lot of hate out there, but Booker's going to want to go one-on-one with that guy because he wants to be the tier above Mitchell. He is, but he just needs to prove it. So we'll see how that matchup affects the Suns team, and if Booker goes too far with it or just the right amount to where he can still share the ball, get Ayton involved, find some mismatches, do what they need to do on offense, and not have it be the Booker show. But if it is a Booker show and he scores 60 and we win, that's fine. But I just don't see that happening. So it's up to Booker really to share the ball and get this team involved against this Utah Jazz team, which is, of course, great defensively.
Yeah, great defensive team. You look at kind of where they stand right now. They're 3rd in the league in points per game. They are 1st in offensive rating and 4th in defensive rating. I mean, they're a squad. Now, granted, the Utah Jazz are very similar to the Phoenix Suns in that they've caught a lot of teams on down nights this year, just like the Suns have. We go against teams like tonight. We played the Rockets, didn't have John Wall. And a lot of the same things have happened for Utah. A lot of the breaks have gone their ways, and they have been really, really healthy, just like the Suns. So it's going to be really interesting going against them. This is a team that the Suns did beat on New Year's Eve. I remember you were sitting in my room. I was sitting here. We're taking shots of whiskey on New Year's Eve, celebrating a victory over the Utah Jazz, a long, long time ago when the Suns were like 5-1 or whatever it was. So it's definitely going to be a game that is very hyped up. It's on ESPN or TNT. I don't remember.
ESPN. TNT's the following night against the Clippers.
Gotcha. Yeah. So, 2 back-to-back nationally televised games. So it's going to be fun to watch that. And you're right. It's DA versus Rudy Gobert in this game. It's just the way it's got to be. And you look at DA's career splits against the Utah Jazz. He's played 5 total games. He averages 10 points and 7.8 rebounds. So Rudy Gobert gives him fits. And, kudos to DA because generally when he plays the big name centers like Jokic, he has really good games. But this is one of those games where Rudy Gobert just locks people up, man. And Suns fans be prepared to be frustrated with some things that happen to DA. He's going to get pushed off his spots. He's not nearly as physical as Rudy Gobert is. So it is going to really come down to that guard play. It's going to be Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell versus Chris Paul and Devin Booker. And I really think that Mikal Bridges is going to be the key in this game. They're going to put Mikal Bridges on Donovan Mitchell just to try to fluster him. But I think, Booker could probably take him, man. I really think that his defense is really, it's not nearly as improved as it should be. But if you look at how, kind of how he's playing this year compared to years in the past, his defensive rating is a lot better because he doesn't have to spend, and we've talked about this before, but he doesn't have to spend all of his time on or trying to generate all the offense. He has a defensive rating right now of 111. It's his lowest in his career. Now, 111, that's not a great defensive rating, but for Devin Booker, it's the best in his career. He's technically, at least from an analytics standpoint, playing the best defense of his career. So it's really going to be fun to watch their backcourt versus our backcourt, Ayton versus Rudy Gobert, and then seeing how the bench plays. You got Jordan Clarkson, and you really need the Suns bench to show up in this game if we want to pull it out.
Yeah. I mean, the Utah bench with Joe Ingles, that's something you have to watch out for every game.
Yeah,
with that
Joe
guy.
fucking Ingles.
He's the one that makes those hard threes. The threes where it's just like it shouldn't go in, but it goes in. That's Joe Ingles.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if the Suns end up losing, I'm gonna be okay with it. I think we'll see where we are against the Utah Jazz. But win or lose, it's weird to say, but of course the win matters. I say every win matters. But if we were to lose, I don't think it's a huge deal in Suns. It shouldn't be. Because it's
not the end of the world.
Yeah, it's not. And plus, when you see this team, if they do see him like the second round, it's going to be a different matchup, of course, every night against those guys for 7 games. So it's just kind of see how we are or how we're going to do against the best team in the league right now. So it'd be fun. It'd be definitely fun to watch.
A good litmus test for sure. Over under 8 missed threes from Donovan Mitchell in this game, Matthew.
I'll say under. I'll say under tonight.
I'll say over
for Wednesday.
I'll say over.
You gonna say over? All right.
Yeah, because fuck Donovan Mitchell.
Okay.
Who wins, Suns or Jazz, Matthew?
Suns win. It's gonna be the pod after 2 is gonna be awesome, dude. We're gonna have
it's gonna be popping in the chat after. I think we might lose to the Clippers the next night just because they play us really well. It's a back-to-back, and we're gonna have a high-intensity game. So I'm picking the Suns beating the Jazz on this one. And we're taking a look. Okay, we got Suns win 113-106. We got a Suns W from the Boogie Trend. So and then Nathaniel Darce is giving this one to the Yaz flute. So we'll see. It's going to be a very exciting game on Wednesday. Next up, we have some mailbag questions. So again, if you're interested in having a question answered here on the podcast, you can email us sunsjamsession@gmail.com or just hit us up on Twitter @sunsjam. We'll take those questions and we'll bring them up on the podcast. It's been a while since we did a mailbag. For those of you who were with us during quarantine last year, I think I was going back and listening to old episodes. I don't know why. And we did like Ask Us Anything. Like it's like volume 17. Like we're just like, please ask us questions. We need something to talk about.
It always be the same questions over and over.
Over and over again. Real quick, I'm going to go down the line though. It's like, all right, positive energy only. Suns win. Suns win all day from Arizona Kush. We win both games from the Boogie Trend. We got Suns from Mega Khalid. Iverson Vlog. Suns win 125-115. Mario Lopez says it's 115-98. So Booker going for 57. And Jay Nunez says Suns win 156-0.
Timeout. Call timeout. That happens. You're up on 156-0.
Yeah, just call
it. Timeout somebody. Jeez.
All right. Well, let me bring up our first mailbag question. We put one of our fun little Twitter polls out there and just said, hey, if you got anything you want to hear on the show, hear me and Matthew discuss, we'll talk about it for the last 10 minutes of the pod. At Aussie_AFC, which ex-Suns player makes this team a championship team and why?
All right. I feel like it brings me back to the solar days, the solar
report.
Solar report. That's what it was. I almost said solar panel 5 times. I'm going to say Amari Stoudemire. I think we just need that 4. I think it's the easy answer. I almost said the Matrix, Shawn Marion, but then you also have just our wings that are playing so well. So you would lose Mikal Bridges minutes, I think, if you had the Matrix here, but we would need an Ayton, or not Ayton, Amari Stoudemire, man. Someone under the rim.
Suns dog agrees with you. We definitely need it, but I got to go with the Matrix, man. I think his defense, his rebounding, his scoring, his 3-point shooting, like everything is designed for the modern NBA. If you have 8 and you have Amari trying to figure that out, it's just like it's almost we're almost too slow and the paint is a little too clogged. And then those Mikal minutes, those end up going to the bench where he would be highly effective. We do have some Barkley love and a Dragon Bender shout out.
Oh,
so,
of course. You know what? Give that guy another shot. He deserves it.
There you go. You want to read mailbag question number 2?
Yeah. So mailbag press. Let me get over to the thing where we do this bad boy right here. All right. Any advice for those fans who want to get rid of Ayton on the trade deadline? Any advice, John, to the fans that want to get rid of Ayton at the trade deadline? It has passed.
For those
too late
fans
now.
who wanted to get rid of Ayton at the trade deadline, here's the advice: just love the one you're with. I mean, you got DA, and again, it's easy to answer this question after a night like tonight. You're going to be happy with him. You're going to be sad with him, but he is your center right now. So appreciate the fact that he's 22 years old. He just played in his 150th or 160th game, and he's still growing. And we're going to need him in the playoffs, though.
Yeah. Just next question. I mean, we're living with him right now, so we have no choice. And I like to have him on the team. So.
There you go. Okay. Next question for you, Matthew. Coming from @Aladdin Allen. Do you trust Campaign to be the backup point guard long term? Ooh, great question.
It's a great question because it makes you think. It's like, when's the last time we had a backup point guard that we thought we might have for the next 2 or 3 years? Because we never even had
Goran Dragic.
Goran Dragic. Yeah, you're definitely right. But recently, nobody. So right now, it's like I honestly just want to think about Campaign and helping us get to the playoffs. I think he can be a good guard to back us up in the playoffs. He's had a little bit inconsistencies, but he's been more consistent as late. I think he can play. I think next matchup against the Utah Jazz and the Clippers are going to be huge matchups for him off the bench. I think that he can be that guy for us this season. Let's see where he is after the playoffs, but he could be a long-term backup point guard, and I wouldn't be too mad about that.
It's tough because I like Campaign. I really do, but the key word there is trust. And I'm not at that point where I completely and utterly trust him. You look at his statistics this year, 37 games played, 6.9 points, 3.7 assists. So he's definitely doing what he should from there. Shooting 39.6% from deep. If Campaign can continue to shoot 39.6 from deep consistently and continue to dish out those assists, I do trust him because that's what we need from him. And he plays defense too. He's pesky on defense. He does all those little things that makes him effective. You look at his per 36 numbers, and that's 14.4 points and 7.8 assists. He is a quality backup point guard that not a lot of people really gave enough credit to or a chance to, and he's taken advantage of his opportunity here on the Phoenix Suns. Trust is a tough word, though, because when we hit those playoffs, he's really going to have to step up. It's going to be really interesting to see how he plays against the opposition. But here's the reason why I trust him. I like how I stuttered there. I stutter all the time. I'm sorry, listeners. He does some of the best post defense that we have on the team. Mm-hmm. I mean, he gets down there. There's pictures of him posting up Rudy Gobert, Anthony Davis, any on the other team. Not Anthony Davis playing this year, but but somebody just put it. He'll box out Anthony Davis. That's what you got to love about this guy. He doesn't care. He will get in there. So yeah, I do trust him, and I think it's a great signing by both James Jones and Monty Williams to bring him here. It's allowed him an opportunity to reinvent his career, to have nirvana, if you will, a rebirth of his career. And he's been really playing well for us. So yeah, I see a lot of people talking about Halliburton in the chat, and yeah, Halliburton would have been great offensively, but I haven't seen much from him defensively. And granted, I'm not I don't have Kings on League Pass. I'm watching the Kings every night. Man, if Halliburton were playing a little better defense, he'd be ideal for us. But I think that because Campaign has kind of that complete game as a backup, it's really going to be interesting, and I do trust him. What's more interesting to me is what are the Suns going to do with their backup two-guard situation? Is it going to be Javon Carter, or is it going to be Langston Galloway? Matthew, who would you rather have in the playoffs as your backup two-guard?
Both, but no, I would have Javon. I mean, even
Me
tonight
too.
where he airballed a 3 and he's just having a hard night, just have Javon. He's still in there to play defense. He knows what to do defensively. Offensively, of course, he's just going to shoot the 3. He's not going to do anything else fantastic. I mean, you don't really need anything else. We've always had that question, who's going to back up Booker? Who's going to help him out? Of course, Halliburton would have been great, but I think the Suns really knew what they had in the backcourt. So they went after Jalen Smith because they needed the backup forward center guy. Yep. And of course, Halliburton's going to turn out to be a good guy. And it would have been nice to have him because you could have had him and Booker when Chris Paul leaves. But a lot of people probably think of that. But I mean, it's hard to be upset with what's going on right now. So I don't even think about that. I do maybe 5 times a day. I think about it, but that's about it. I'm just joking.
And Alan Aladdin, he's actually in the chat, and he says, "Thank you for answering my question. Love the pod. Hey, we love you for your support. And if any of you guys are bored, go ahead and hit that little money thing in the chat and be a super fan and such. No, you don't have to. All right, Matthew, why don't you dish out the next question?
All right, next question. Is this
Paul Pierce take?
Oh my God, yeah, Matt Maravich.
Matt Maravich. Okay.
Oh my God, I am. So
do you want to start on
brought
this?
That up.
Give me your Paul Pierce take.
I had to look at Paul. I was laying in bed last night and I had to look at Paul Pierce because that's all I kept hearing about. I was laughing for like 20 minutes about this thing. I know it's the whole demeaning towards women thing and like they're strippers, all of that. And it's probably not funny to laugh at it. But the funniest part is I think Paul Pierce didn't know that everyone could see it in the whole world. I think he just thought it was a personal thing. Maybe he was too drunk. Who knows? But the funny part was, when you would listen to the video, someone comments like, hey, they're like, you just hear like a butt cheek getting slapped, like, whoosh, and they're like, someone comments like, where's Rachel Nichols? I'm not saying this is good, but come on, we have to stop pretending like these guys don't act like this. I mean, not all basketball players, of course, but everyone in the world has their stuff they do in private. It happened. It wasn't even in private. He had his friends over poker night watching the game and strippers were over. But now he's gone from ESPN. But I did laugh for 20 minutes because of that one part, because of they were throwing stuff at the strippers, and I'm sorry. It was funny because it's Paul Pierce.
Well, exactly. I mean,
what do you think?
The funny part to me, obviously not as anything relative to being demeaning towards women. What's funny to me is the guy just doesn't know how to use technology, man. Like, this guy's on ESPN. He's had to figure out how Zoom calls work because they've been doing that on ESPN for like months now. Now, granted, on the jump, like they're in person now, but like he doesn't know how to like close the chat on an Instagram live thing, and he just thinks he's having a good old time. And the next thing you know, and then did you see the video today where it's like after he got fired, it was just like him laughing. He's like, like
I love Paul Pierce now. I've never been a big fan of his, but that was the funniest like 48 hours of anybody in the NBA doing anything to get themselves fired from ESPN, which is fine because he can get work somewhere else. But it's just like, I hate that we have to stop pretending these like guys don't hang out like this. They don't do this
especially
stuff,
like basketball players. I mean, there's stories about the entire Phoenix Suns team getting sucked off like in succession. Like, it's just the NBA culture, everything around it. I mean, these guys are millionaires. So what are they going to do with their money? Have a ridiculous party and a hell of a good time playing poker. Like, and again, it's just like the fact that he didn't realize how to turn it off is just. Oh man! So yeah,
I was laughing, my high pitched laugh. Oh my God, dude! But and it sucks too because it's like if you had Instagram Live at the Kardashian Island, like there would have been crazy stuff.
Oh man,
there.
You would see the blood transfusions.
Yeah, you would have saw something crazy. But
yes, so my brother just texted me. Does anybody in the chat? Can you tell me what the score of the NCAA championship game is?
It's a blowout still, right?
I don't know. My brother Paul, he's going to win our bracket if Baylor wins. So he's
okay.
He sits there. He doesn't watch any college basketball. He's like, dude, looks like I picked a pretty decent bracket. I'm like, why don't you watch the Suns, motherfucker? Like,
if the Baylor wins, wins, oh yeah, they're up. They won 86-70.
It's over. Well, congratulations to Baylor for winning the national championship, and congratulations to my little brother for winning money. He needs it ever so much. So. All right, last question on our mailbag. This is from @Zanezor Official. He says, when is Zanezor coming back to the pod? Zanezor.
Whenever he's not on the street rapping, dude.
Yeah, I know. So for those of you who don't know Zanezor, he obviously does the victory raps for the Phoenix Suns. I'm sure after this podcast is over, we'll go on Twitter. He'll would have put one out. We'll retweet it because it's always fantastic. He's so creative. He's a great wordsmith. And that's one thing he does now. Like at home games, he'll stand outside and he'll freestyle about the Phoenix Suns. So shout out to Zanezor. We'll try to get him back on the pod and have a victory rap here with us. We had him on one time, and man, he's a crazy dude, man.
Yeah, he knocked over his house or something.
He
knocked over everything in the room.
He had a great time. So we'll try to get him back here on the pod. It's always a good time bringing in different people who love to talk Phoenix Suns with us and to even rap about it. So shout out to Zanezor for hanging out with us that one time. we'll have him back on. Is there anything else you want to talk about? We really covered everything. Like we even covered Paul Pierce. Like we
I
went
just wanted
there.
to talk about Paul Pierce today. That was the
Those are
craziest
great
thing I've
quotes.
ever. One of the
Dude.
craziest things I've seen.
Jesus, man. Like just learn how to use technology, man. It's like my mom, like trying to do, she sends out something Instagram live because she just got Instagram. It's like, Mom, whoa, stop hanging out at
She has strippers
Chippendales.
over?
Yeah, she's at Chippendales. Just like, how do I turn the thing off? So, anyways, on that note, I think we're all wrapped up here. Again, thank you to everybody who decided to come and join us here instead of watching the national championship game. That's awesome. Make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you are listening to the Suns Jam Session podcast. If it is on Apple Podcasts, give us one of those 5-star reviews and write us a review, and we'll talk about it here on the podcast. Make sure if you, again, are on YouTube, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the podcast as well. My name is John. He is Matthew. John and Matthew, the Jam Session podcast. I'm done. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Phoenix Fans at Suns Jam. I'm at Darth Vader. He's at Matthew Lissy. I'm done.
All right, Miguel, have fun at the game, dude, and then also join us after live.
Heck yeah. Hold it down,
It's gonna be a
Miguel.
great pod. It's going to be a win and a great pod. So everyone go home and love your family.
Take care, everybody. See you on Wednesday.